legacy has the youth of yesterday left behind for today's youth? Hello, Dumelang Sanbonani, South Africa. Welcome to a special show where we are commemorating the June 16 Soweto Uprising. This is Expressions, your number one youth current affairs show where your views definitely get heard. Now, we are broadcasting at the June 16 Memorial Acre. We are literally right opposite the Morris Isaacson High School here in White City, Jabavu. I am your host, Jacqueline Mapala. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Now, as you can see, I'm standing right in front of the iconic statue of Tsietsi Mashinini. Now, Tsietsi played a critical role in mobilizing the youth of 1976. We celebrate the role that was played by Ulusha like yesteryear in the liberation of the country. Mugeliwe Expressions, we will be taking you on a time machine to a time where the youth took to the streets to protest against the use of Afrikaans as a medium of instruction at their schools. Now, before we get into that, one of our producers, Nombuso Ogamahlango, had the opportunity to sit down with the legendary photojournalist Ubaba Usam Zima just before he passed away. Now, in this sit-down interview, he had the opportunity to narrate exactly what happened on that fateful day. Let us have a look at it.
A witness of what is dated as one of the biggest march ever, Sam Zima walked the SABC team to his unforgettable memories of June 16, 1976.
I saw a little boy falling down on the ground. I dashed for the picture to go and get the picture there. It was under the shower of bullets. Police were shooting, just shooting to kill, not with the rubber bullets. So Hector Peterson was down. I did not know his name, but I went for him and I saw another student, Buiso Makubo. He picked Hector Peterson up his arms, and he was trying to get the nearest car to take him to the clinic. The only nearest car was our press car. So I was fortunate because when he picked Hector Peterson, the car was behind me, far behind me. He came with Hector Peterson. I kept on shooting the pictures, 6 shots. Then he got into the car. The car took him to the Peven clinic where the doctor certified him dead. When they came back to report that Hector Peterson is dead, the student retaliated. They picked up the stone and hit back to the police. So hell was loose. Everything was on hell, man. And I was there taking the pictures all the time. But immediately after I've taken that one of Hector Peterson picture, when they came back from the clinic that Hector Peterson is dead, I removed that film, I stuck it in my sock. No, I knew that the police would come and take my camera because we're not allowed to take pictures of the police action. I just felt the police holding me from the back. And he said, "Who call me your name? Take this off." Which means that, why you take pictures here? And they gave me a clap. He took all my cameras, opened the cameras, exposed all the films, and they ransacked my pocket to see if I'm still having some other films. I want to find that I don't have, only those in the camera. And they quickly, I pulled out that film, I gave to the driver to run to the world office with it.
A big thank you to our producer Nombuso for putting together that insert for us. And we know that 43 years on, our schools are still plagued by language issues, or at least language challenges. I mean, we know statistically that 30% of grade 1 pupils are not being taught in their home languages. Now, the poll question tonight is this: is the modern youth enjoying the fruits and the heroic sacrifices by the youth of yesterday? Now, of course, I'm not going to have this discussion by myself. I am joined by my lovely panelist. Welcome, Kitchen 16 show. And of course, I never do this show by myself, if you're wondering what's happened to my co-host Mxolisi, because we're doing a special broadcast. We've got an amazing group of young people who are joining us. Well, can you say hello?
Well, Jackie, of course, we're joined by the youths of the Morris Isaacson's High School, just opposite to where we are. Guys, can you please give yourselves a round of applause?
And I think I'm going to start with Ausgomolemo. I mean, we are talking and we're focusing specifically around language. And we know that the June 16 youth uprising was a huge protest around weaponizing language as a way to deny young people access to education. Talk to us a little bit about why you think it's important for you to have an academy such as the one that you have, but most importantly, for young people to be taught in their mother tongue.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. Now, when June 16 happened, it didn't just happen for the schools in the township. It happened for all the children of South Africa. Now, yes, the township schools do have that liberation of being taught in their African languages, indigenous languages. But what about the private schools? In private schools, the option of indigenous languages is very limited. If not, it's not available. So it is very, very important for all the children to be accommodated when it comes to indigenous languages. And that is why SP Language Academy happened, because I wanted to close that gap where children only know other languages, but they don't know their home languages.
So we want to understand from you as the Department of Basic National, at least focusing on basic education, want to find out what are you doing to promote this, to ensure that young people no longer are working outside of the system, or at least disadvantaged because of language?
Thank you. Indeed, it is true that in the Department of Basic Education, we view the role of language as very crucial. It's very important. So we have a number of programs that we are running in the system, like the incremental introduction of African languages, wherein it aims to promote the previously marginalized official African languages in our schools. So learners in the foundation phase in particular, they learn through their home languages, which includes African languages. So we also have another program which is initiated by Eastern Cape province, where 712 schools are using isiXhosa as a language of learning and teaching beyond even foundation phase, up to grade 9. They are teaching maths and science through that language. That's how critical the role of language plays in education.
And talking about how critical language is, I mean, we know that language is a carrier of our history. It's a carrier of the memories of our history. And we find a lot, whether you're on social media or on Instagram, hey, when somebody does not know how to speak English, you know, and we laugh at each other. But I think there's probably a gap or something we're missing in terms of celebrating and promoting our own languages. And I just want to find out from you, Dan, as someone who's representing the June 16 Foundation, understanding what young people stood for, how do we start to promote our languages? How do we start putting our languages as an important medium of communication in our economy, in everything that we do?
Let me start by explaining the fact that in 76, when we took to the streets, it was because the language was enforced. There was no negotiations. There were no consultations. You had Cedric de Beer, the then district inspector, summoning the students, summoning the teachers, summoning the principals, and informing them that Afrikaans is going to be used as a medium of instruction. Now, that obviously was not acceptable. Now, all that we are saying that now is that we have got the Pan South African Language Board. So that is the structure that is expected to ensure that you have mathematics in Setswana, in Xhosa, and so on. You have got history in the indigenous languages and a number of other disciplines. So all we are saying is that whatever languages that we are going to introduce in our schools, no language must be enforced. There has to be consultation. There has to be meetings and conferences with parents, including these young people. Because innocent as they are right now, if you enforce any language on them, then we'll be able to see fires in the street of Soweto.
How do we make sure that what was done heroically by the June 1976 young people moves forward with these young people? How do we make sure that these young people actually enjoy the fruits of what was sacrificed for them?
When we go back to an event like the 16th, we actually zone in and realize that we come from a proud people, a strong people, a nation of warriors. And we carry that with us. We move on. We will never stop fighting. There will always be things we are fighting for in the world, That's how the world is. We're going to be eating fruits and also seeding, that will go on up to eternity. But we know we come from people who prevailed. And that is why we're sitting here today.
Powerful, powerful words. And clearly, the fight continues for young people in South Africa. And of course, at the back end of this, we're going to go to Mxolisi and hear some of the insights from some of the students that we have with us today. This is a special broadcast on our June 16 commemoration. You're watching Expressions. We'll be back right after this.
You see, the kids of 1976, they knew what they were fighting for. Our kids of today, they are too general. They are general in the sense that on the other side, they say the education is not good. On the other side, say fees must fall. Yes, it is the right story, the right thing to do that. Fees must fall, but they must be also committed. And changing the fees must fall is a process. It cannot be done in one time, nor 1 year.
Even a cartoonist named Fiso won an award using Sam Zimmer's picture of Hector Peterson, comparing the 1976 students to the ones of 2006.
To me, I was offended in the sense that it means that the 1976 children were drinking. But unfortunately, he mentioned that 1976 and 20 this year is a different type of a thing, because today they're drinking and they're smoking dacha, because a student there was smoking and one was holding a bottle of beer. It's a sign to show that our students should really consider what was happening in 1976.
Spinde sinibingelele sinamukele. From the June 16 Memorial Acre in Soweto, this is Expressions. Now, Mbuzo Mkhulu, this evening we ask again, are the youth of the current times really enjoying the fruits of the sacrifices of the youth of yesteryear? We are now joined by my students from the Morris Isaacson High School, which is just opposite to where we are right now, to have this conversation with me. And this is a place of historical significance when Bugeliwe Expressions. As you can see, even next to me, it's just a timeline of a version of events that exactly happened on that fateful day. But of course, we start with Ikosas, which is also joining us on the show. But we were having a very big conversation about the use of languages. Ey'koleni zethu ukuthi abanye abantwana still are not really taught in their home languages. How's the fight to ensure that we have abantwana bethu learning in their home languages going in Ikosas?
We are saying to young people, we need to understand the importance of June 16. What we need to do when we speak about culture, like now in our schools we have issues of bullying. We must understand what is buyagupi. It's a societal issue, whereby ubabusha umamendli, then he thinks that is correct. That thing is culture. What we need to do, we need our books speaks the truth. Because in what there's they're cut and paste. They'll tell you about Queen Elizabeth. Why they can't tell us about Tsetse Mashinini?
Umbuzo Mkhulu today is, njengomuntu omusha, do you understand the significance of the 16th of June?
I do understand the significance of June 16, but what makes me to feel a pain deep down in my heart is that we as students, we don't appreciate what the youth of 1976
Yeah.
We don't appreciate them. By how? We're not performing at our optimum level. We as students, we should perform at our optimum level to show the appreciation of the youth. That's the education they're fighting for. Yeah.
Now, Ulusha Lase Morris Isaacson High School played a very important role, of course, in mobilizing the rest of the other youths in the township as well. Do you understand?
Certainly, we do understand, and we also appreciate the fights that they fought for our freedom, the language. But then, I think it was not enough. I think as the youth of 2019, as the youth of the 21st century, I think we should also stand up and fight for our language, because what they fought for was that they shouldn't be taught in Afrikaans. But then what we should fight for is to instinct our home languages, that we should be taught about with our home language, with our mother tongue from the first grade, from grade 1, and then we shouldn't abandon our home language until university. We should go on with our home languages till tertiary level, so that we could produce to our optimum level, as he have said, that we are not producing to our optimum level. It is because we are limited by this language, with this foreign language. It is unfortunate that in a post-colonial Africa, we are still being taught by a foreign language, and our languages are not embraced enough. It is not enough. That's what I'm saying.
Young people have been celebrating this holiday in a very wrong way. It was actually said, Uguti, it should be a day of mourning, because young people lost their lives for change. So now if we see young people going out and just, yes, celebration is supposed to be celebrated because they conquered what was fought for, but then not forgetting what this day was for.
The sacrifice that the youth of 1976 made is now being defaced and demeaned, in a sense that we're being taught in a foreign language, as she said, and they're trying to westernize our African culture, in a sense that we try our utmost best to fight for free education and fight for an education whereas all us South Africans will be able to understand. Yes, having the strength to learn in English is a big prospect, but for those people who don't have the prospect of being able to understand subjects in English, they should be able to cater for them and, in a sense, allow them to learn in their own home language so that they can be the best that they can be.
Mbukeliwe Expressions, remember, we're not live namhlanje kusehlo, but we are, of course, having a conversation with you on our social media platforms. Ujeki continues with this conversation. Masbuya, remember to tell a friend, the hottest current affairs show is now showing. Back after this.
Today, we demand a free and decolonized education because you have raised us that way.
According to Hassan, there are similarities between the Fees Must Fall and the June 16 uprising.
One of which is that in '76, it was also a decolonization project. The rejection of Afrikaans as a medium of instruction was saying that we're going to reclaim our space in education, and actually we're going to be taught in a language that we're comfortable with. And that's very similar to what we've seen at the University of Pretoria, at Stellenbosch, at all of these, at UFS, at these institutions where Afrikaans remains the medium of instruction.
Welcome back. You are watching Expressions here on SABC 1. This is our special show. We're commemorating the June 16 Soweto Uprising. And of course, I'm still with my panelists. I mean, there were a lot of very interesting comments, I think, that came across from young people. A lot of, I think, important questions that they were asking. But I think I just want to find out, especially when we're talking about decolonizing education, what are you as the department doing to ensure that this is something that is realized sooner rather than later for young people?
Yeah, decolonization will be incomplete in education if we don't talk about the issue of languages. So it's one of the apex of decolonizing curriculum in the system. And fortunately, that agenda item was put forward even by the Fees Must Fall, because they said we need to decolonize education. And you heard from our learners here, they were talking strongly in favor of mother tongue education.
Let me bring in Khomolemo into the discussion as well. What can we do, especially for young people who already, I mean, you spoke about the fact that, you know, it's important for you for them at a basic, you know, grade 1 level to be taught this language. But if so hudile, how do we still promote this and promote who we are? Because this is part and parcel of our identity.
If we could bring in the different games and sporting activities that were that are indigenous. For example, you've got diketo, you've got dibeke, you've got khadi. If those games could be incorporated, if someone could just take them and maybe extend them to an extent where it can be a competition, to extent where it can be, a sport in a school environment. Every game had a moral. Every tale had a moral. Every book, you get the Anilima Ele, which is idioms, where they've got a moral to, good behavior. So the cultural aspect of it wouldn't just be language, but it would be indigenous games, it would be sports, it would be the stories and the tales that were told, it would be the books that were read. If you could go back to those, there's always that moral of the story that can be learned.
For you, and then, I mean, young people again are here. How do we pass the torch forward?
It's a question of the young people themselves, because you have got young people in parliament, you have got young people in the legislature, young people at local government. Now, these are the young people who have to pave the way for the rest of the society of young people. Now, some of them, it's true that they fall prey to some of the social illnesses, but now those can actually be overcome because there is huge potential in the youth of today. Now, if you take, for instance, the energy that was oozing during the period of the Fees Must Fall, and you take the energy that is oozing currently when youth start to blockade streets and bend tires and so on, that is not what we support. What we want is the energy of the youth to be channeled properly. Mm-hmm. Youth can be able to channel their energies in order to fight against teenage pregnancy, nyaupe, and so on. Yeah. So those who are in parliament must be able to legislate on behalf of the youth. Mm-hmm. If there are criminals out there who are hiding, who have got factories of nyaupe and factories of different type of crimes, you have got a youth minister in justice who can be able to ensure that punitive action becomes quite severe for those who are reproducing these substances.
What flame can we ignite moving forward in terms of generationally building into young people who are going to come from this country?
Most of the times you find that we're looking at the youth and we looking them as flimsy failures. And that is a lie. The youth of today are more powerful, if not of equal power with the youth of 1976. The world is a jungle. The youth of today, we are having to fight lions and beasts which we could never have imagined back then. And it is our war. And I think we are on the right track. But I tell you, the youth of today have got power. And I know and I believe, because we know where we come from, because that same flame is the same flame. It's not a different flame. It has not gone. If there were oak trees, we are oak trees. We cannot be banana trees coming from oak trees. If there were oak trees, we are oak trees. They were powerful, we are powerful. The same fire still burns in each and every one of us this day. And whatever war, whatever fight we must fight, we will prevail, because we know who we are. We know where we come from. And that is my message for today.
We're definitely seeds of really powerful individuals. Thank you so much to my guests. A big thank you as well to the students saying halala, halala. How guys, halala. Oh, must I say amandla? Away too. Oh wow, I'm so inspired. This was such a powerful show, powerful show.
Absolutely, Jackie. We have been enriched namhlanje with seas of wisdom. I think what I really liked was Ubaba also saying that we all have the same power. It's just how we use it that matters the most. When we look at the Fees Must Fall movement and the youth that feel itratizetungama protests, it's two different causes, Jackie. Mbugelwe Expressions, and thank you very much, Nagini, for joining us. Namhlanje Kusihlo. This has been our June 16 special broadcast. From all of us, Light Expressions, we wish you a spectacular evening going forward. And Saleng.
Bye.